I'm shocking the world, baby. I'm going to shock the world. I'm pretty sure you guys didn't hear a lot of that as I was muted here for a little bit. But anyways, moving on to our fantasy football rankings just before Thursday night football between the Chicago Bears and the Carolina Panthers. And David's rankings, similar to mine as always, right? At number one, he's got Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been playing excellent, this year, in the last few weeks of the season. This season, and I think Joe Burrow, has a favorable matchup against the Houston Texans. So yes, he's got Joe Burrow as number one quarterback. At number two, he's got Justin Herbert. At number three, he's got Dak Prescott going up against the New York Football Giants here. And at number four, he's got Josh Allen. And round out his top 10, he's got C.J. Stroud, the rookie sensation out of Houston, who has 14 touchdowns on the season, 1 interception. At number six, he's got Lamar Jackson. A little low on Lamar Jackson. Me too, as well. I got Lamar Jackson at number 6. And that's because they are going against one of the elite defenses in the National Football League in the Cleveland Browns. So that should be a low-scoring game. At number 7, he's got Geno Smith. At 8, he's got Justin Fields in anticipation. So David sent me these rankings yesterday. He was in anticipation that Justin Fields would be playing today. So Justin Fields is not playing today. I'm pretty sure he would put in, maybe Sam Howell or Baker Mayfield or Brock Purdy or something like that in his top 10 if Justin Fields wasn't there. And number 9, he's got Jared Goff. And then rounding out his top 10, he's got Trevor Lawrence. And then on his outside looking in, he's got Brock Purdy. Like I said, he would have probably had Brock Purdy in there if he knew Justin Fields wasn't going to play. And then going up against Jacksonville, he's got Sam Howell in his top 13. He probably would have considered him to put him in his top 10. And Sam Howell's going against the Buccaneers, going to go up against Seattle on the road. And then he's got Kyler Murray on his outside looking in. And his sneaky plays in daily in DraftKings are Will Levis at 5,300 and Taylor, give me a 6-pack of Heineke at 5,100 playing for Atlanta, going up against the Arizona Cardinals. My rankings here at number 1, I got, Dakota Prescott. Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys going up against the New York Giants. He had a sensational game against one of the best defenses last week in a hostile environment. I believe Dak Prescott goes. He's at home going up against one of the weaker defenses. Going up against one of the weaker teams. Offensively, Dallas is going to get after them. Good after that team because that team, the weak spot is definitely offensively and offensive line, quarterback play. I think DeVito is probably starting for that team. So not a lot of sustained drives are probably going to happen. That means it's going to be a tired defense. One thing about the Giants defense, Bobby Okereke, he's been bringing the heat. He's probably been one of the best linebackers in football this season. Probably one of the harder hitting linebackers this season. But that you need 11 guys to play. Dak Prescott's going to torch him. He's gonna dissect that whole team. And number 2, I got Joe Burrow. I do agree to have him that high. I like Joe Burrow this week against Houston. Like I said, the last 3-4 weeks, Joe Burrow has been magnificent. He has just to look at it. I mean, looking at his point outputs, he has been really amazing. When we're looking at fantasy, the last 4 weeks, he has finished in the top 13. The last 2 weeks, he's finished in the top 10. And week 5 against Arizona, he finished in the top 8 with 24.4 fantasy points. Last 2 weeks, 27.6. Last week, 22.3 for Joe Burrow. At number 3, I got Josh Allen going up against Denver. Even though Denver defense has played well of late, coming off 2 back-to-back good, great games. The last game before the bye week was against the Kansas City Chiefs. They won a home against them. So Denver's defense has been playing really well of late, but I see Josh Allen still getting in the end zone, on the ground, throwing a couple touchdowns, despite his turnover issues, this season, or inconsistencies within the offense running the football. I think that Josh Allen still has top 3 value at home. At number 4, I got Justin Herbert. Yes, Justin Herbert has a favorable matchup with the Detroit Lions, who has a good defense, but I do think that with Austin Eckler healthy, Keenan Allen playing really good football, no Josh Palmer, so they're going to rely on Quentin Johnson a little bit and the two tight ends, Gerald Everett, Donald Parham, somewhat. So, but Justin Herbert still got top five value. I expect that game to be a shootout. And then number 5, yes, I do agree with David. CJ Stroud, who's been pretty amazing this year. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had that 5 touchdown performance last week, going up against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I like that matchup for the rookie sensation, CJ Stroud. And then number 6, yes, me and him are on the same wavelength. I got Lamar Jackson. I still think Lamar Jackson does hold value throwing the football, especially running the football. He hasn't scored a touchdown in the last couple of weeks here, but I do expect Lamar Jackson when things get tough and when things get tough and he needs to get one in. I think Lamar Jackson will get one in. We know that in the red zone, he's got Gus Edwards, who has 7 touchdowns on the ground this season. At number 7, we got Jared Goff. And then at number 8, I got Sam Howell. Oh, Sam Howell's real interesting, man. I mean, going into Seattle, I know there's been some inconsistencies here and there, but I mean, the last few weeks, Sam Howell has been a top 10 quarterback. Actually, the last 4 out of 5 weeks, Sam Howell has been a top 10 quarterback, really since week 5 against Chicago. He finished 26.4 against Chicago, 18.3 in week 6 against Atlanta. He did struggle against the New York Giants, but he was a number 1 quarterback against Philly with 32 fantasy points. And then last week he was in the top 10 with 18.7 points against New England. So yeah, Sam Howell is definitely a top 10 quarterback here. At number 9, we got Geno Smith, who has had his ups and downs. He's been very consistent, but I do like him to, I like that matchup against Washington. And then running on my top 10, I got Baker Mayfield, who had a really great game last week. There's nothing to really be scared of with this Tennessee Titans defense. Last week, Baker Mayfield put up some numbers against the Houston Texans. In the last 3 weeks, Baker Mayfield has been a fringe top 10 quarterback, with last week being a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. And then rounding out my top 13, I got Trevor Lawrence, Josh Dobbs. Yes, Joshua Dobbs going up against New Orleans. Even though I know that's a tough defense to play against, I like Josh Dobbs this week. Especially getting a running touchdown. If he gets a running touchdown, he definitely has some top 10 value. And then on the season, I mean, Josh Dobbs has put up some good games. I mean, even in Arizona, I mean, I expect him to have a little bit of a better hold of the offense now that he's got an extra week here to kind of prepare. But Josh Dobbs, I mean, even in Arizona, I mean, he had 3 top 10 finishes, 3 top 10 weeks in Arizona before he moved on to Minnesota. So I do like Josh Dobbs this week going up against the New Orleans Saints. And then round out my top 13, I got Kyler Murray. Yes, we don't know what he's going to look like, but I think Kyler Murray is still Kyler Murray, right? So you can't doubt him. Even though I know his team isn't the greatest this week, I still got him as a top 13 quarterback going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who are, sneaky top 10 defense somehow, some way. And then my sneaky options in daily fantasy for FanDuel, Baker Mayfield at 6,600 and Gardner Minshew at 6,700, which, by the way, Gardner Minshew going into New England, interesting fact. I mean, I think that Gardner Minshew, not an interesting fact, but I think that Gardner Minshew can do some things against New England. I know he hasn't been a top 10 quarterback at all, but 2 weeks ago, he was a top 10 quarterback. He was number 3, actually, against one of the more elite defenses in the Cleveland Browns. I do like Gardner Minshew with the running game going with Jonathan Taylor and everything. I think, Gardner Minshew could be a fringe, could be a sneaky play in FanDuel. And then Baker Mayfield, that's just cheap at 6,600, who's been a fringe top 10 quarterback the last 3 weeks. Moving on to those rock toters, as David likes to say, going on with my rankings. Number one, Christian McCaffrey. I think he's got a week to, get healthier. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are coming off a 3-game losing streak. I expect him to play motivated. I expect them to give it a lot to Christian McCaffrey against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number two, I got Austin Eckler going up against Detroit. At number three, I got Travis Etienne. Even though he's going against San Francisco, I do like Travis Etienne this week. The offense revolves around him, and it doesn't, he either running the ball on the outside, running in between the tackles, catching the ball on the outside. Travis Etienne is the focal point of that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Expect him to get the ball a lot in that game. And then at number four, I got Breece Hall, who has been really good. Has been pretty much the only bright spot for the New York Jets. Breece Hall has, let me look at how many top 10 finishes he has. Last week, he was number 30. He was ranked number 30th, but before that, he had 3 top 10 finishes. He's got 4 on the season, but he had 3 top 10 finishes in the 3 weeks prior, 3 games prior before last week. So I like Breece Hall in this matchup against the Vegas Raiders. And then running on my top 5, I got Alvin Kamara going up against the Minnesota Vikings. I like that matchup a lot. I think Alvin Kamara is going to get the ball a lot in that game. And then number 6, I got Jonathan Taylor. At 7, I got Joe Mixon, who scored a touchdown, I believe, in his last 3 weeks here for the Cincinnati Bengals. Going up against the Houston Texans, I do like that matchup. Last 2 weeks, he scored a touchdown on the ground. So I expect him to keep it going here for Joe Mixon. And then number 8, I got Bijan Robinson. He's got a good matchup going up against Arizona. Not the most talented defense there down there in the desert. So I'll expect Bijan Robinson, who's kind of hit a little bit of a rookie wall since his rising start to the season. He started off the season pretty much a top 10 running back, on the season. But the last few weeks, last week he finished 35th, the previous week 16th, the previous week before that 58th. That was the week that Arthur Smith said that he was feeling sick. But he was a fringe top 10 quarterback, the kind of top 10 running back to start the season. It's kind of hit that rookie wall this season. At number 9, I got Tony Pollard going up against the Giants. He's probably, when it's all said and done, I think Tony Pollard is going to be a little higher on the rankings when it comes down to it against the New York Giants. And then top 10, and then round on my top 10, I got Derrick Henry going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Even though, I got Derrick Henry a little low, he's still in my top 10. Vita Vea is back. So that's going to sew up that, the offensive line, the defensive line there in Tampa Bay. The front seven is not the issue. It's the back end that's the issue in Tampa Bay. That they've had issues with, as you saw last week with Houston being able to pick apart their secondary. And then my top 13, and then round on my top 13, I got Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, who looks healthy, ran strong against the LA Rams. I like that matchup against Pittsburgh. And then Josh Jacobs. And then my sneaky options in FanDuel, I like Miles Sanders tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at 5,200. If you can go rush to FanDuel right now and go get put your plays in, I'd put Miles Sanders in. Him and Chuba Hubbard both split the carries, but I think that game's a little weird. I think, Miles, if they're going to be successful, I think they have to really incorporate Miles Sanders, especially in the passing game. I like Miles Sanders at 5,200. That's cheap. And then at 5,100, I got Keaton Mitchell. Yes, we talked a lot about Keaton Mitchell 2 days ago or yesterday as well. He's the running back from Eastern Carolina, the rookie, undrafted rookie speedster who had over 140 yards, I believe, in the touchdown in Baltimore's game. I think he's going to supersede Justice Hill in that backfield. And at 5,100, he's cheap. I know he's had some injury issues this week, barely practiced today, so you want to keep an eye out for that. But I like Keaton Mitchell. I'm actually starting him in a couple lineups of mine. So at 5,100, roll the dice on Keaton Mitchell. And then David's rankings, he's got Austin Eckler at number 1. At number 2, Christian McCaffrey. At number 3, he's got Jonathan Taylor. At 4, he's got Alvin Kamara. At 5, he's got Bijan Robinson. At 6, he's got Breece Hall. 7, Derrick Henry. 8, Tony Pollard. 9, Travis Etienne. He's got Travis Etienne a little lower than I do. And then he's run out his top 10. He's got Ramondre Stevenson with that matchup New England going up against the Indianapolis Colts. And then on his outside looking in, he's got Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley. And then his sneaky playing DraftKings, he's got Jamal Williams at 4,300 and Ty Chandler at 4,000. Ty Chandler is, if you guys don't know who Ty Chandler is the backup running back now, who will probably get the backup carries to Alexander Mattison out there in Minnesota after Cam Akers ruptured his Achilles. So David thinks that Ty Chandler is a good play at 4,000 for the Minnesota Vikings. Next, we have from those rock toters, we got those pass catchers here. Starting off with David's rankings, he's got Amon-Ra, the sun god, here at number 1, going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. I actually do like that matchup a lot on both sides. Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Austin Eckler, David Montgomery, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff. I like all those guys. Sam Laporta is another guy. I like a lot of those guys in this matchup. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game in that matchup. At number 2, I got Jamar Chase. At number 3, Keenan Allen. Yeah, he's got Keenan Allen in his top 3, like I said. At number 4, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs going up against the Denver Broncos, who you know what, the Denver Broncos have played really good of late. So I look at that matchup a little, think about that matchup a little hard. But Stephon Diggs is a no-brainer. You play him regardless every week. He's in his top 5. At number 5, he's got DJ Moore. And this is anticipation that Justin Fields was going to play and not Tyson Bagent. So he's got DJ Moore in his top 5. At number 6, he's got Mike Evans. At number 7, Terry McLaurin. 8, Michael Pittman Jr. At number 9, he's got Nico Collins. He likes that matchup. Nico Collins going up against Cincinnati with CJ Stroud throwing him the rock. And then his top 10, round out his top 10, he's got Devontae Adams going up against the New York Jets with Aiden O'Connell still throwing him the rock. That matchup, in my opinion, I'd tread lightly with that matchup. I mean, if he's starting, if he's in my regular league, but if I'm like playing FanDuel or something like that, DraftKings, I think hard about Devontae Adams. And if you're not in such a deep league and you have a few other options, I'd actually think about sitting Devontae Adams against the Jets. I do not think that Devontae Adams. I don't think that going up against Sauce Gardner and those guys. I don't think that he's a good play, but that's why he's all the way down at number 10. And then rounding out his top 13, he's got Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel coming back from injury after having that bye week as well, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then Adam Thielen tonight as well, going up against the Chicago Bears. And the sneaky plays in daily fantasy for DraftKings, he's got Jameson Williams at 3,400 and Dontavian Wicks at 3,300, the rookie wide receiver out of Virginia for the Green Bay Packers, going up against Pittsburgh this week. And then from David's rankings to my rankings, I got CeeDee Lamb at number 1. Yes, people might be wondering why. CeeDee Lamb, there shouldn't be any wondering why CeeDee Lamb is at number 1. He's going against the New York Giants, who haven't been good at stopping anybody on defense. CeeDee Lamb in the last 2 weeks, the last week against Philly, he was the number 4 ranked wide receiver. Before that, he was number 2 ranked wide receiver against the Rams, and then he was a top 10 wide receiver before the bye week. He was a top 10 wide receiver against the Chargers. I expect CeeDee Lamb to expose another weak defense here in the New York Football Giants en route. Last week, he had 16 targets, 11 catches, 191 yards. The only thing he didn't have was a touchdown in that game. At number 2, I got Jamar Chase. At number 3, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. At number 4, I got Keenan Allen. I mean, those guys, I think those 2 guys are going to be top 5 guys, especially in that matchup. At number 5, I got Adam Thielen. Yes, I got Adam Thielen pretty high. David had him in his top 13 or on his outside looking in. I like Adam Thielen tonight. I think Bryce Young's been looking for him all season, and I like Bryce Young to look for him tonight, may possibly get a touchdown. Adam Thielen has been a hell of a wide receiver this year, kind of a revitalization of his career. He basically pretty much went to Carolina to die, his career to die. I don't think he sees it that way. But he knew it was a young team. But Adam Thielen this year has been a top 10 wide receiver. The last 2 weeks, really hasn't been top tennis, but he still has had the targets. He had 11 targets against Houston, only six targets last week against Indianapolis, but they were all over Bryce Young in that matchup. But he's popped out three top 10 matchups, three top 10 rankings this year. So, I expect Adam Thielen to have a good game against Chicago Bears. And at number 6, I got Stephon Diggs, a little lower on Stephon Diggs than David is. At number 7, I got DeAndre Hopkins. Yes. I like D-Hop in this matchup against Tampa Bay. I just don't like that secondary. I know Will Levis, he can really sling it. Carlton Davis has been getting his cheese and his bread took pretty much all season long. That back end of that secondary has been has been horrendous, and I expect DeAndre Hopkins to have a really good game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 8, I got Mike Evans. At number 9, Brandon Ayuk. I like Brandon Ayuk this week against Jacksonville Jaguars. And at number 10, DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf started to show that he was the number 1 in that pecking order. With the hamstring injury to Tyler Lockett, a hip injury to Jackson Smith-Njigba. I don't know how good those guys are going to be out their breaks. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I just got the notification that he was going to be active for this game. And then Tyler Lockett has been playing minimally, has been practicing minimally this week. So he is going to be ready, as he says, he's going to be ready this week to play in week 10. But DK Metcalf, I think, has the most upside out of all those guys. And then on the outside looking in, I got Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, and Christian Kirk, who San Francisco has given up at least one touchdown to a wide receiver this season. And they're on a 3-game losing streak. I expect them to win that game, but I expect, Trevor Lawrence to find Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and company, Calvin Ridley and company as well. And then my sneaky options in FanDuel are Noah Brown from the Houston Texans, who, has played, particularly well when he does play, and had a really good week, over 100 yards and a touchdown last week. I like him at 5,400 against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then before I thought that Jackson Smith-Njigba was not going to play, I thought hip injury. I didn't think Jackson Smith-Njigba was going to play this week. I put Jake Bobo as my sneaky play in FanDuel at 4,600. Jackson Smith-Njigba has had a great rapport, has looked good in the last couple weeks with Geno Smith. So, Jake Bobo may not get a lot of action, but if he's not, good to go after like one quarter, or he bangs up that hip again, I expect Jake Bobo, to possibly find the end zone sneaky in this matchup. So at 4,600, why not make a few lineups, put him in a lineup. You can put money elsewhere in your lineups there. Going from our pass catchers to our other pass catchers here, our tight ends. I'll start first with Sam Laporta at number 1. Me and David both have Sam Laporta at number 1 here on our fantasy football rankings. At number 2, I got Dalton Kincaid. 2 rookies at the top for me. I like what been seeing out of Dalton Kincaid this year. Like what I've seen. Sam Laporta has been the best rookie tight end. Dalton Kincaid has been catching up of late. As of late. But I like both of those guys at the top of my rankings. At number 3, I got Dalton Schultz going up against Cincinnati. I like Dalton Schultz matchup this week. He has played really well the last couple of weeks. Has been definitely a top 10 tight end in the last couple of weeks. These last couple of weeks of late. Last week he was the 3rd ranked tight end. The week before there was a little bit of an outlier. He's the 46th ranked tight end, but before that he was the 2nd ranked tight end, the 5th ranked tight end, and a 4th ranked tight end. So 4 out of 5 weeks he's been a top 6 tight end in the league for Dalton Schultz. And I think he's also had a touchdown in all of those in the last 4 out of 5 games. And then at number 4, I got George Kittle. Yes, George Kittle's been hot of late. I like that matchup going up against Jacksonville. At number 5, I got Jake Ferguson, who has been steadily consistent all season long. He's been the top 10 guy pretty much majority of the season. I like Jake Ferguson, especially in that matchup against the New York Giants. He was the 6th ranked tight end last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 6, I got TJ Hawkinson. You got to watch out a little bit for his rib injury that he sustained last week. against Atlanta. But he did say he's ready to go. He's number 6 on my rankings, a little lower on him than David is. At number 7, I got Mark Andrews, tough defense going against the Cleveland Browns. At number 8, I got Taysom Hill, who has been playing really well in that kind of Swiss Army knife role for the New Orleans Saints. We all know that he can throw it, he can catch it, he can run it, he can do a lot of things. The last 3 weeks, he's had top 5 status. He was the 4th best tight end, in all of fantasy. The week before that, he was the number 1 ranked tight end. And the week before that, he was the number 5th ranked tight end. And I believe he's had a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns the week before. He had a throwing touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown last week against the Bears. And he had a receiving touchdown last week against the Bears. And I believe he threw for a touchdown as well. In that game. So Taysom Hill at number 8 is a top 10 guy. And then at number 9, I got Cole Kmet, who caught 2 touchdowns last week. So I expect Cole Kmet this week to do his thing, or tonight to do his thing against the Carolina Panthers. And then rounding out my top 10, I got Evan Ingram, who has been a consistent top 10 tight end this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence. And then on my outside looking in, I got Logan Thomas, Jonnu Smith, who had his big play ability. Jonnu Smith had that big, long 60-yard touchdown run against the Minnesota Vikings last week. I expect him to do some things this week against the Arizona Cardinals. And then Cade Otton for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like what I seen out of Cade Otton last couple weeks. I think he was the number 1. He might have been the number 1 ranked tight end last week. He was the number 2 ranked tight end last week. He had 2 touchdowns on top of 70 yards and 6 catches, 9 targets. He's been getting targeted. The last 3 weeks, he's had 6 or more targets, in the last 3 weeks. So I expect Cade Otton to get the ball a lot in that game. Against Tennessee. And then my sneaky option in FanDuel is Trey McBride at 5,100. With Kyler Murray coming back, he's going to be looking at Hollywood Brown. He's going to be looking at Trey McBride, a lot. So I expect Trey McBride to have some success this week. But at 5,100, he's pretty cheap in FanDuel. And then David's rankings, he's got Sam Laporta at number 1. At number 2, he's got George Kittle. At number 3, T.J. Hockenson. He's a little higher on T.J. Hockenson than I am. Even with the rib injury. At number 4, he's got Dalton Schultz, Bobby Schultz, cousin Dalton Schultz. Shout out Bobby Schultz. At number 5, Mark Andrews. And then at number 6, he's got Dalton Kincaid. 7, Evan Ingram. 8, Jake Ferguson. 9, Cole Kmet. We got Cole Kmet at the same spot. And then round out his top 10, he's got Taysom Hill. And then on his outside looking in, he's got Logan Thomas, Luke Musgrave, and Trey McBride to round out his top 13. And then the sneaky option in DraftKings is Irv Smith Jr., who caught a touchdown pass last week at 2,700. And then moving on from our tight ends to our defenses, I'll start with David's rankings. At number 1, he's got the Dallas Cowboys. Our number 1 and 2 are the same, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets. Like both of those matchups, Jets obviously going up against a rookie quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. And the Cowboys going up against Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants, who I do not expect, and they're at home, who I do not expect to have a good game against the Dallas Cowboys. Then his number 3, he's got the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Washington Commanders. At number 4, he's got the Baltimore Ravens, who have been probably the best defense in the league, going up against the Cleveland Browns. And then round out his top 5, he's got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against Tennessee. And then on his outside looking in, he's got the Saints, the Steelers, and the Colts. And then the sneaky option in daily for DraftKings is the Green Bay Packers at 3,400. So those are David's defensive rankings there on the for week 10. And then my defensive rankings, I got the Cowboys, the Jets at number 1 and number 2. And then at number 3, you got the Baltimore Ravens, who has just been studly in the red zone. They've only allowed, I think on one hand, I can only count how many red zone touchdowns they've had on the season. I think it's like 4 or 5. And then at number 4, I got the Chicago Bears tonight it's crazy that I'm saying this just before the matchup for Thursday Night Football. But yeah, I got the Chicago Bears as the top 5 defense tonight. Bryce Young threw 3 interceptions last week against Indianapolis Colts, 2 pick sixes. I do like the Chicago Bears this week or tonight. I'm actually starting them in a league right now as we speak. So I like the Chicago Bears to be a top 5 fantasy football defense this week. And then rounding out my top 5, I got the Seattle Seahawks. And on my outside looking in, I got the Vegas Raiders, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cleveland Browns, ladies and gentlemen, going up against the Baltimore Ravens. I expect that game to be low scoring, but I also expect that game for both quarterbacks to probably make a mistake or two in that game. And then my sneaky option in FanDuel is actually the New York Jets at 3,900. They're actually pretty low for being a top 5 defense, being the second-ranked defense. They are pretty low at 3,900 going against the Las Vegas Raiders. I would roll the dice on the New York Jets in a heartbeat at that rate. At 3,900, you can put your money elsewhere in other positions. I probably actually will make a few lineups, and I'll put the Jets in a couple of them because that is a pretty low number for a really good defense going up against a offense that could be very inconsistent this week. And I believe they're playing in Vegas, but I just don't expect Aiden O'Connell and those guys to sustain drives or even keep drives alive. This isn't, Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. This is Aiden O'Connell from Purdue playing with the Vegas Raiders, going against the New York Jets. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that has been a show and a wrap for week number 10. Please drop your comments in the comment section or any questions that we can ask for fantasy football this weekend on your matchups, because we love to answer those questions, ladies and gentlemen. And before I get out of here, we always end the show with who is going to be the top fantasy point getter of the week. My top fantasy point getter of the week, I'm actually going to go with Christian McCaffrey against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love that matchup for Christian McCaffrey. I think he gets 2 to 3 touchdowns against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he's healthy. I think he runs the football hard against them. I think he gets in the red. I think they get in the red zone. He gets a couple red zone touchdowns, maybe a rushing touchdown. But I do like Christian McCaffrey to get over 80 to 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in that matchup. And you guys tell me what you think is going to be the top fantasy point getter this week for week number 10. But anyways, that's been a wrap. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here at Prime Sports World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And in case you missed us, you can catch us on all streaming platforms where podcasts can be heard. I have dropped the link down in the comment section there, and I'm posting there. We can be heard on Apple Music, Samsung, Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, ladies and gentlemen. So you don't want to miss that content here from Prime Sports World, bringing the heat 24/7. But ladies and gentlemen, as I like to leave it off, in case I missed you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, see you tomorrow with my main man, Christian Simpson, on College Football Showdown. And then we will be bringing the first edition of College Basketball Madness this Saturday. You don't want to miss that content from me here at Prime Sports World. So keep it locked in here, bringing the heat 7 days a week. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great night and sayonara, suckers.